They always told us our childhoods were simpler, safer, kinder. But if that were true, why did so many of the toys they sold us come with dangers no one bothered to warn us about? Why did the aisles of the 80s and 90s glow with colors and characters, while hiding risks that sent thousands of kids to emergency rooms? And why did companies keep releasing toys that hurt so many children when they knew exactly what was happening? The truth is buried under nostalgia. But once you start peeling back the memories, the picture gets darker. It starts with the easy bake style ovens. Every kid wanted one. A tiny glowing box that promised cakes and cookies made in your bedroom. But behind the pastel plastic was a heating element that reached temperatures far beyond what a child should ever touch. Burn units across the country treated blisters, melted skin, fingers wedged into slots that were never designed with safety in mind. Reports piled up, photos, testimony, complaints. For years, the companies insisted the burns were mild, expected, normal even, as if the problem was not the toy, but the children who trusted it. But that was only the first layer. Look at the Sky Dancer dolls. They looked harmless. A fairy on a string. Pull the cord and she soared. But the moment she launched at the wrong angle, she turned into a projectile. Eyes blackened, teeth knocked out, forehead split. Emergency room charts filled with injuries caused by a toy marketed as magical. Years later, internal documents surfaced showing the companies were aware of the hazards. They knew the wings could whip back with violent force. They released them anyway. Then there were the lawn darts, metal spikes heavy enough to pierce the ground, or a skull, depending on where they landed. The boxes showed families smiling in backyards. The warnings were tiny. The injuries were massive. Children were impaled. Some never made it home. Only after multiple deaths did regulators step in and pull the product. But what almost no one talks about is this. The companies fought to keep selling them. They argued adults should supervise. They argued the darts were not inherently dangerous. They argued profit over safety until the very end. This pattern repeats through the decade. Slip and slide was supposed to be harmless summer fun. A plastic sheet, water, and momentum. But when larger kids or adults used it, the force drove their bodies into the ground with enough impact to snap necks. Hospital records from the era show spinal injuries directly tied to this cheerful backyard toy. The companies knew the danger. They simply hid the information. They changed marketing, not the design. Stretch Armstrong burst inside living rooms across the country. Children were exposed to the chemical goo inside, which caused rashes and burns. Super soakers pressured water hard enough to cause eye injuries. Water bead toys swelled inside intestines when swallowed. The list keeps going, and that is where the question begins to form. If it happened once, you could call it an accident. Twice, maybe a miscalculation. But the same pattern repeats through the 80s and 90s across dozens of products. So what was really going on? Some look at the era as a wild west of consumerism. Fewer safety regulations, fewer lawsuits, fewer watchdogs. But that explanation feels too neat, too clean. Because when journalists dug deeper, they found internal memos from toy companies acknowledging dangers long before recalls. They found marketing teams trained to target children with bright colors and cartoon mascots. They found companies pushing the same hazardous designs into new shapes and new packaging, hoping no one would notice. It was never about innocence, it was about sales. But there is an even stranger pattern. The toys that caused the most injuries often shared similar traits. High speed, heat, chemicals, hidden mechanics, toys that pushed the boundary between novelty and risk. And every time an incident occurred, the blame was placed on the child. Not on the design, not on the engineer, not on the company, the child. Why would corporations willingly release toys they knew were hurting children? Why fight regulation unless the danger served a purpose? Why hide reports instead of redesigning? One theory suggests incompetence. Another points to corporate greed. But there is a third possibility. One whispered about by former industry insiders who saw how certain decisions were made. The 80s and 90s were a testing era, a time when corporations studied consumer behavior with almost no boundaries. They wanted to know how far they could push design without losing sales. They wanted to see how parents reacted. They wanted to see whether children would still beg for toys even after hearing rumors of injuries. Some insiders claimed it taught companies a lesson they still use today. People will always choose novelty over caution, always choose excitement over safety, always choose the thing that looks fun, even if the risks are hidden in the fine print. Once you see that pattern, the whole era feels different. Those spinning tops that shattered into shards, the chemistry sets with real acids, the toy guns that fired hard plastic pellets, the doll accessories small enough to choke on, the scooters with wheels that locked at random, the pogo balls that burst under pressure. These were not isolated errors. They were data points, experiments branded as childhood. And through it all, nostalgia smoothed the edges. As adults, we remember the colors, the commercials, the jingles. We forget the warnings, the recalls, the lawsuits, because the world back then felt simpler. But that feeling was engineered, a distraction from the fact that corporations were running live tests inside our living rooms. Look at the shift today. Toys are softer, simpler, regulated beyond recognition. Gone are the heated ovens, the spinning blades, the metal projectiles. But ask yourself why. Was it growth, or was it because the experiment ended? Did they gather the data they wanted and move on to something bigger? The toy injuries of the 80s and 90s are not a random part of history. They are a chapter in a larger pattern. A pattern showing just how willing companies are to use the public as test subjects, and how easily nostalgia can bury the truth. Because when you look back now, something becomes crystal clear. We did not survive those toys because they were safe. We survived them in spite of what they were designed to be. And the companies always knew. You be the judge. If you're awake, you already know what to do. Hit the link in our bio and subscribe to our free underground newsletter.